This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to Teach Me Pokemon, the podcast. I'm your host, Cory, and along with my co-host, Jared, we're best friends, been playing Pokemon for a very long time.
We didn't say
a wild Cory appears.
I don't know. That's not the noise. That's not the noise.
Cory, did you ever notice? I forget in the opening sequence what one of us is running.
Oh, man, I was gonna bring this up one time. I can't. Is it like a water deck? Does one of us have like a Luminion active or something?
One of us is running Dragapult, and that's the play. Welcome to Teach Me Pokemon. I'm Jared. This is Cory. We're just hopping right in because we're so excited about what we saw at EUIC this past weekend. But what we saw at EUIC this past weekend was Dragapult everywhere. So much Dragapult, Cory.
Did we didn't predict Dragapult, did we? Or did we? No,
I don't believe so. I think we were talking Gardevoir and some other stuff.
Well, Guardy still was the second most played deck in day 2.
That is correct.
I mean, that's not a terrible take there, but yeah, should have just thought Dragapult. If it's not Reggie Drago, Jared, it's Dragonpult. So it's just if you were a dragon type lover in Pokemon, this is it, man.
Right. I mean, you're super happy that they got rid of fairy types and that you have no weakness.
Yes, but as we know, Jared, the fairy is coming back and with vengeance, but that's the next set. That's what Tord in the future, we learned in the future.
It's fair.
But yeah, man, a lot of Dragapult. Do you want to talk? It didn't win though. It didn't win the tournament.
It didn't. It was but this is the motif that we have been talking about, Cory. It did not win. Congratulations to Ryuki running that cloth Terapagos. But as you look at what was like most played in day 2, it was the things that we've been talking about. It was either setup decks or speed decks. I think you could make an argument that maybe Archelodon and Goldingo are maybe kind of like mid-range decks, and that's what kind of fills out our top 6 is like 2 speed decks, 2 setup decks, and maybe. But it just felt more of like, well, I gotta kill these Dragapults and Gardevoirs before they get going. And that's what the Miraidon and Cloth were trying to do. So it was just like, I don't know. And then everybody else was trying to find their way. Stahl was there. Lost Box had 17 in day 2. Like, this was just a wild tournament.
Wild tournament. You said Archelodon. Is that how you say it?
I don't know. I'm trying different things. Archelodon, Archelodon, Arculodon. I don't know, but I'm trying different things.
Arculodon. I like the Arculodon, Archelodon, Archelodon. I think it plays well, and we saw this in Japan with Champions Leagues. Is the little the Duraludon can hammer in, hit 30 with 1 metal energy, and that can knock out those Badoos. And so it's just you can't item lock it as easily as some of these other decks. And so with Badoo being obviously hugely prevalent right now, I think the Archelodon does find some ways into that, and then still can just get on top of you pretty quickly. It's limited by its damage output, and that's why the Dialga's in there. But you're right. I mean, kind of that mid tier can go slow, can go fast. It different than Goldingo, right? Goldingo, would you call that more of a speed deck?
I don't know. I would just call it a damage deck. It's like it really Goldingo is afraid of weird stuff. It fears no Pokemon straight up. Yeah. It's just a matter of whether you can get the energy or not, and then you fear absolutely nothing. But That's what was so shocking to me, Cory. Like, tell me the tournament that we've seen 30 Goldingos in day 2. Like, clearly there was a read here from some of the best players, and I'm sitting here going, what was it? Like, what were they seeing that they were like? Were they just afraid of Dragapult, knew that they could go toe to toe with that, or what was it?
Yeah, I mean, I would start there. I mean, and we remember this. at Louisville and playing Goldingo, and the Dragapults were fine. Like it's always a scary matchup. Not saying it's not, but like that always felt kind of comfortable to be able to play into Dragapult. So I think it is now. You add the Search Pro to find all those energies to go, basically knock out the Dragapult, on your second or third turn potentially, makes that matchup I think even easier to navigate. So yeah, but I mean, like, it draws. We've talked about this. There's, I think, a educational moment, something about drawing cards that you used to say that if it can draw cards, it's going to play. And Goldingo, as we know, draws a million cards. So, and Xander Pero is an extremely good player. Hele Van Kampen, who got 13th on Goldingo. If we are the like ambassadors of Goldingo, he is the godfather. I mean,
the godfather.
I think it was his deck that I copied for Louisville. So, you have the Goldingo godfather finishing 13th. I mean, these are good players on the deck too. Even Isla, how do you say their name, Jared? 19th place. They're playing Goldingo.
Yep.
You know what they got at LAIC? Third. So again, another experienced Goldingo player. And then our boy Raul Reddy on Goldingo. So it's like, this wasn't, hey, rookie, play Goldingo. These were 4 top players on a deck that they all probably know very well, outside of Raul, who's been Lugia main pretty much. But anyway, I don't even remember where I'm going with this point. But the player match with deck, that always matters.
Well, in the only really variant that we see, I'm looking at Isla's deck, the 1/1 Scyther Caesar. But what seemed pretty consistent, Raul to Isla. I'm checking in here to see if LA made this same move, but the addition of the Monkey Dory was not present. And that's a big deal. And I think that's really smart, because now in this version of Goldingo, you're not just running water and metal energy, you're running all of these different types. So if you can leverage that, man, like Monkey Dory moves are huge.
It's 2 things. I don't say it counters Badoo, but it puts a timer on Badoo where you can't just Badoo every turn, because eventually you can just move the 3 damage and kill it. But it's the equalizer against Dragapult, because it's doing 260, right? 260 on the bench. Now you're prepped for a 4-prize turn next turn. Well, now you're moving damage counters, and it doesn't matter. So the Monkey Dory, huge in that matchup. And yeah, I think, how many decks, Jared, had Monkey Dory? Like,
if your deck doesn't have Badoo or Monkey Dory, are you playing Pokemon, Cory?
Are you? Yeah, I think only Snorlax and Dragonpulse didn't have it. I think everybody else had it.
And that's why they lost.
And that's why they lost. There's no Monkey Dory. Okay, real quick. Let's give some order to this. So Ryuki wins it on Cloth Terrapagos. Speed Cloth. Speed Terrapagos, whatever you want to call it. Natalie, Dragapult, Dusknoir, Goldingo, Dialga Palkia, Archelodon, Dialga, Dragapult, Snorlax, and then Dragapult, Dusknoir rounded out our top 8. Are you surprised that the Dragapult Dusknoir seemed to be the more popular variant than just Dragapult or Dragapult Charizard?
No, it is the new reigning best deck in format, in my opinion.
Oh.
And that's what I was going to ask you, is if you agreed with that. I don't see a way around it right now with every single card in format that helps this deck do what it wants to do. Like, it draws, it damages your bench, it can scoot, it has big health, no weakness. The Dusknoir just helps you, because it's like we talked about back in the old days of your Dusknoir. Like, you have to game plan. If there's a Duskull down, Cory, there's 150 damage counters on the line every single turn that you have to account for. Like, the math as a defender is just so much you have to be thinking about. Yeah. And I think that's what we actually saw in the finals with the game that Natalie won. Is I could be wrong, but I don't know that Ryuki was planning all of that out with the Dusclops drop, boss order, 5 prize turn. Like, I don't know that he was prepared for that in game 2. So I think it's the best deck right now. If Reggie Drago is sidelined because of Badoo, then I think that is what has to be dethroned. But as we saw in our most recent Japanese tournament, come Atlanta, Cory, it's about to get turned on its head.
Well, okay. I was gonna save this for later, but I'll use that as the transition. Then we'll go back. But it's hilarious. So Terra Box, there was one player that day 2'd at EUIC, 312th place, Jan Patrick Strohmeyer. And it's so funny, Jared, this deck, it's coming. Because you look at Champions League, it was 5th, 10th, 11th with Mr. Reklev. So it's like it's one card away and it needs Clefairy, and then this thing's gonna be everywhere. So
absolutely.
But I kudos to Jan for running it without the Clefairy.
Well, we're about to lose so many good cards come rotation.
Yeah.
Like we will have an episode coming up here in March, right before the rotation, where we're talking about what's leaving and what that impacts. But just Forest Sealstone alone is enough to shift the meta into a more uncertain state, because you just can't get whatever you want.
Yeah.
Like, there's not going to be a card in the format outside of Pidgeot that just says go find whatever card you want.
Yeah.
And that's going to change. That clearly what we saw last week or 2 weeks ago in Japan is going to say, yep, that's going to shift it. It's going to shift it pretty hard.
No. I mean, and it's going to hurt Dragonpult. I mean, when you can't Luminion Arvin,
yep,
basically for
no Rodham.
Yeah, no Rodham. That's going to suck, and that's going to slow that deck down for sure. I think the Greninja will have a massive impact as well, on rotation. So yeah, Atlanta, it'll be interesting. We'll all be checking our Champions League Fukuyama, checking what decks we need to run, because that's going to be the only real thing to look at, to be like, oh, okay, this is what's popular. Okay, I have another little thing off of the tournament. This is piggyback offing what we talked about last week, and kind of the conversation. We didn't mean for it to get there, but it basically ended up Azul versus Tord is kind of where we ended up, right? The impact Azul had with all these Miraidon decks, and then Tord really running things that other people can't really copy, so it doesn't have like the same impact. And I think Azul still had fingerprints on this tournament because everybody was ready to counter Miraidon, and it showed because it did not have a good showing here.
Yep.
The top Miraidon was 26th. Azul did make day 2, but he finished 232nd. So he wasn't really in contention. But I think it's not because, and he was on Miraidon, but I think people were ready because it did so well last weekend and the weekend before that people had it on their radar. And therefore, you even saw some Reggie Drago, Jared. I mean, where was Reggie Drago? Yeah, a 17th and 20th, which plays well into Miraidon. So I think Azul still has an effect. But then, to finish my point, you had Tord, who no one can copy. And we said Tord, compared to Azul can hit those home runs and win a tournament out of nowhere. But Tord consistently just hits doubles, hits triples, hits home runs. And he finished 22nd. And Tord is always going to be in contention.
Always.
Like, and you know me, and that's something in my life. I just give me an opportunity. Like win or lose, at the end of the day, I'm generally okay as long as I have a shot with 3 seconds left to win the game. Just get me there. And I think Tord is always there. It's just unreal. I don't understand how in a game of chance, Pokemon is a game of chance. It is. There's luck. Sorry. We try to take it all out of it, but there's some luck. He always is there at the top. I don't get it. Jared.
He is the greatest at limiting his mistakes and reading the situation. And the decks that he builds allow him somehow I don't know, but to be ready for most situations that he is seeing. It's mind-boggling. He's easily, you know, a lot of people want to say who their GOAT is. I mean, he's probably my GOAT. Like, every single international, all he lacks is a world. If he gets a world's title, I don't think there's any question, even with Jason's, 3 world titles.
Yeah.
It's kind of how we look back in the NBA and say, like, you know, what was it? Oscar Robertson, 10 titles. Yeah, it was in the 70s. No one really played.
You mean
then.
Bill Russell? You mean
Bill
Russell?
Bill Russell. But Oscar Robertson has it too. But Bill Russell's like, yeah, he played in the 70s, whatever. MJ is the greatest.
Yeah.
So
I feel
it just is.
I feel like I got to just say this, and we're gonna lose our listeners here. But I feel like when you go to say, well, Michael was 6 for 6 in the NBA Finals, it feels like a gimmick stat. Like, it feels like, oh, Michael was 6 for 6 and Robert Horry has 7 titles. It's like the same argument. Watching LeBron play, like, I covered a game for him the other night. He played the Trailblazers. Unreal. I don't get it. He goes for 40. He I think he's the best ever. I don't know.
We're not getting into this on this podcast. The blasphemy spewing out of your mouth right now.
Okay, I'll bring it back. So I liked how Natalie had. So I feel like the Lance plays, the supporter Lance, Jared.
Yes,
it's so funny when Lance started to become a thing, which is when like Badoo became a thing, right? So I can still Lance and I can get around Badoo. It was like one Lance. Like they ran it like, you remember Bridget?
Yeah.
Back in the day.
I remember Bridget.
You know, that was Tord. He ran Bridget. You know, back then, Tapu Lele for Bridget. Search your deck for 3 basic, put him on your bench, right? And he would set up the Zoruas and get the Zoroarks going and blah, blah, blah. Well, then it was one Lance now. So it felt very normal. Okay, one Lance. You search out your Dracolax and whatever, your Dragapult. And then it was like, well, it could be prized. So let's do 2. Well, now Natalie, 3 in this tournament, 3 Lances, and then I looked at Tord's list. He had 4. So are you surprised at all the Lance plays? Is that shock you? Do you feel like it's overkill?
No, I think it's I think it's a necessity. Like, because, right, we're always talking about being consistent and increasing your odds. You're 100% right. In the Badoo format, if you hit a Lance and you are Dragapult, you're off and running because you're going to get the Dracolac and you just have everything that you need. Like, it's a game of survival. And that was what was so hard to watch in the finals, was Natalie not have that in any of the 3 games when she needed it.
So talk to me about the finals. You watched it. I didn't get a chance to. Ryuki, Natalie, how did that go down?
It went down very quickly for 2 of the 3 games. Game 1, Natalie opens with a Dreepy pass, and Ryuki off to the running, knocked out the Pokemon. That's what his deck is supposed to do. Game 2 is a great game. It felt like Natalie still didn't get off to the start that she wanted, but just a top-notch player and just really patient, set up, rolled with the punches, took a 5 prize turn, like knew the matchup, baller. Game 3, Ryuki goes first. Natalie opens single Dreepy, GG. Starts Rangaroo. No shot. Like, all she could hope for at that point was that Precious Trolley was prized.
Yeah.
And it wasn't.
And it wasn't.
And neither was the things that could have been prized that should have been.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it was I love speed decks, but they're not good streaming.
Well, yeah, you're right. That's frustrating. I do think, though, from a silver lining perspective, the decks showcased what they do. Even though they were as fast finals, maybe not back and forth entertaining, but it's like, that's what Cloth Terapagos is supposed to do. And if that gets into a long game, Dragapult's going to win. I mean, so then it's like, well, that's not exciting. And I'm not saying the quick kills are exciting either, but it's like they showcase their decks and they were the outcome. I just realized that Ryuki, and who am I to question a guy that won EUIC, got 20th in Perth, 63rd at LAIC, first in Dortmund, 11th in Champions League Fukuyaka, 15th at Champions League Kyoto, 18th last LAIC. And who am I to question, Jared, this man's decision? But where was the Petrant EX in this deck? I'm telling you, I have played a lot of games on this deck. That gives you pivots to get the knockout going first when needed. Without that, sometimes you get a little limited. Now, he had 4 escape cards, or switch cards, I mean. And he had a Kieran, which lets you switch as well. So,
sure.
You know.
And the Latias.
Well, and the Latias is, yes, but you have to be able to basically retreat twice if you're going to get the first knockout, because you can trolley. I played on live against someone yesterday that I think had Ryuki's deck, and I went first. No, they went first, and you could tell they didn't get there, and then they just quit the game. They started Brute Bonnet, they dropped a Rangaroo, threw on the Forest Seal Stone, but then you could tell they were thinking, and then they just quit. But in my mind, I was like, they had it. As long as they had Petrant EX and Petrant, because they dropped the Hisuian guy already.
Sneasler.
Yeah, and I had a Rodham fan belt active. So 70 HP.
70 HP, yeah.
I was like, GG. I was like, I almost quit. But then they quit. And I'm thinking, oh, maybe their Petrant EX was prized. Oh, they're not running it. So I don't know. Who am I to critique? But
you may just hit 4 lances. Who are you to say you should run 4 lances in your Dragapult?
4 lances. 4 lances. But how many people in this? 3,000?
Yeah, that's what was so funny to me. If you weren't paying attention, Corey, and if you just went to Limitless and didn't look at the country of origin, you would say, 3,361 players. Oh, Ryuki won. That must be a smaller Japanese tournament. Like, that's literally. But no, this is a giant European tournament.
Oh my gosh. I want Japan, because it's funny, you see it's 5,000, right? It's exactly 5,000 because they cap it. It's a lottery system. It's wild. Just one time, make it unlimited. And how many people, Jared, would show up? How many people you think? Okay, over under 11,500. Would you take over or under?
Over.
I
think once you announce that it's unlimited for the very first one, like people would travel too.
Oh,
like they'd be like, we're gonna make this a 50,000 person tournament, and it's gonna be 5 days. And like people are gonna lose their jobs. But like, tell me that you wouldn't do everything in your power to be a part of a 50,000 player 5-day tournament. And I'm not saying that should become the standard by any means, because there are logistical limits, I believe, to this type of stuff. But it harkens me back to when in 2008. When we were running in the grinder in Orlando, and there was multiple rooms.
Yeah.
Right. And the winners from the multiple rooms were the ones that went on. And it's like, there's ways to make this happen. And yes, your statistical chances of doing well go lower, but like it can happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and even at some of the ICs, NAIC, they'll do like a flight. Like you're in flight 1 or flight 2, like you're in the same room, but they'll split you up into different groups, just to get through the tournament. 50,000. I mean, that would hit like normal news. Like I think news outlets would pick that up and be like, there was this tournament in Japan. Like, yeah, Jared, I don't know. I mean, at this point, like if my wife and I had another kid, like I would miss the birth for that. Like easy. Like a third kid,
baby number 3, not getting.
Wow, yeah, I'll see you at home, babe. Like, not a question. Like, I'm trying to think what I would not skip to go to that tournament, and I don't think there's anything. So I don't know. That would be incredible. That'd be incredible. But yeah, man, big numbers. Ryuki coming in. I don't think. Do you think Clough, Terapagos will see more play now, or do you think this was like a one-off?
I I think people have to recognize that I think this was also a response to Miraidon, right? Like this deck is not afraid of Miraidon in the least bit. It's licking its lips.
All these decks, Jared. I think all the decks in the top 8, Cloth, Dragapult, Goldengo, Archlodon, Snorlax, Stall, would be like, oh, please give me Miraidon. Like, please.
Oh my gosh.
That's a funny point.
And I'm sorry, and looking at it, like, going forward, I mean, obviously you're going to lose part of it moving forward, but I think there will be some remnant of, Terra Poison Pokemon that moves on into Atlanta. You're going to lose, obviously, things like, your ability to do your heavy ball. You're going to lose Lumineon. You're going to lose, anything with that F stamp or lower. But Cloth isn't going anywhere. Like, there's going to be some stuff that really sticks through here that I think it will be in the meta moving forward. I don't think it's the best deck in format. I think it's a great deck, but I don't foresee it going anywhere.
I think it's gone because you lose. And you and I have had this debate who the MVP of this deck is, and we would say probably Latios in some ways, but truly your center in the paint, your Shaquille O'Neal is the Oranguru, and that rotates out. And
That's
so
true.
if you don't have Oranguru, you just lose the ability to get those tools to pull off the turn 1 knockout going first and the 4 Seal Stone to find your trolley. I think it's dead. I think the crab got its win, Jared. The crab and the turtle. This is a perfect little sea ocean deck, and probably will never be one again. I think Ryuki he finished it. And even Brute Bonnet, isn't that like some sort of crustacean?
I don't know what Brute Bonnet is, man. It's a mushroom.
Oh, he's a mushroom. It looked like
this is the like Among Us like ancient throwback, I believe.
Okay, because I'm sorry. Like, I know this is derailing, but I mean, he
looks like he's underwater in the picture.
He looks like he's underwater. I mean, you have that. You have the Lumineon as a fish. You have the Cloth as the crab. You have the turtle. I mean, you really have a very sea feeling.
Sure. And then you throw in some your one-offers, right? Like Pheasantipede and Oranguru, they would die in water. Like
they would not.
Oranguru would just sink and die. Like it would be bad. It would be real bad.
I think if any of these Pokemon were going to scare you in the middle of the night, though, it's got to be the Radiant Hisuian Sneasler. Like that. If that thing popped out of your closet, I think. I don't know. I mean, I would clearly pass out and die.
I don't know. This is going to be weird, but like looking at the picture of like the Squawkabilly EX, like that would be super scary in the middle of the night.
I think that thing would hurt you. That. Its claws would be very terrifying. Anyway, any final thoughts on EUIC?
We need to throw a couple shout outs before we get into our education moment here about, just some of the spice that we saw. So let's take a look at some of the day 2 spice real quick that we see. Honestly, nothing like wild. Got to shout out the Hydreigon, got to shout out the Greninja in day 2. But really, other than that, there's only certain trends that are interesting to me. We talked about gouging fire. What would that look like going forward? 8 decks in day 2. I think that's very significant. Stall staying put. I already mentioned Lost Box making a little bit of a run. And then I was honestly, I think Cerulege may be more of a play for the future. But I think having 3 decks there, like I thought there'd be a few more. But those were just my thoughts on it.
Yeah, and maybe Cerulege maybe comes into play later. You know, one deck that I'm surprised not one made day 2, and I don't even know. Obviously, I don't know if it made the tournament at all. It had to have been. But if you go look at Japan, go to the future with me, Jared, and you go 15th to this Flareon Noctowl deck.
Yep.
I've actually been playing this online right now because it's a quick, fast deck. Either the match is over very quickly for me or for them, one of the two. And it doesn't have a lot of pivot options. It's not really a Cory deck in that way.
Right.
But it goes. And every card in it from Japan is legal right now. I'm surprised it didn't make a day 2. I think it's good enough. It has mechanisms to one-shot Dragon Pulse. You dominate the Golden Go matchup because it's weak to fire. You do really well against Lugia because you can switch to Leafeon because it hits based on 60 for each energy you have in play. It smacks the Charizards because it's weak to Leaf. It does well. I don't know. I kind of like it. I'm surprised it didn't make day 2.
Yeah, that is interesting. I agree with you. I think we'll see more of it because it is going to be fire. Fire always has a way. It feels like it goes away for a little bit, but like good fire decks, they're there to deal mass damage, and it's just something you have to be aware of. Even though Charizard is dark right now, like it's really a fire deck. It runs off of fire energy.
It's really a fire deck.
Yeah,
let's not
Terra nonsense.
Get out of here. Get out of here, Terra. You're tearing me up. I don't know.
That's good.
Right.
That's good.
Move on. Move along.
Oh my gosh. Well, let's jump into our education moment.
Educate us.
So let's talk about Cory right now. I feel like moving into our last couple of tournaments before rotation and new sets, oftentimes you find yourself between a rock and a hard place. So there is a term, I'm going to throw out a big fancy word because I love to be so kneelable.
You're so kneelable.
What we're about to enter into for the next, whether you go to league or whether you are at some type of smaller tournament or even you make it out to one of the regionals before we hit Atlanta. This is what is called liminal space, Cory. It's liminal space. I'm not making up words.
That is not a word.
Go look it up. But what this means is
I can't even spell that. So.
It's an in-between space. So what do? We know what the new hotness is about to be. There's no question. We've seen what is good at the biggest Western tournament. So what do you do right now, Cory? Like, what is the thing that you should be working on or doing, building up to what is going to be a massive rotation / new set coming in at the new time? Do you know what's good and look at EUIC and play off of that? Do you start prepping things that are going to be good? Like this is a bit of a question to you for our education moment, but in this in-between time, if you're trying to grow as a player, what do you do?
Ooh, well, I had my answer until you said grow as a player. Well, I'll still give my answer, and then you tell me. What would you
play right? What would you play right now?
Oh, well, that's another question. I don't know how to. It's a different question. I'd say my first question is, and I will be, I'll be a little vulnerable right now. You and I like to run these off the wall rogue decks typically, and there is a little sense of me sometimes at a major tournament. When you flip over the card. You're a little your opponent's like, what the heck? What are you playing? There's like a little bit of like, you're embarrassed. Just a little. Until you can like show them, what my deck actually does here. And then they're like, oh shoot, win or lose. They're like impressed. Then you're fine. But there's a little bit of like embarrassment, just a tad. And I think right now this is the only time when it's acceptable to run whatever the heck you want. Because it's new rotation. Everything is on the table. You can't flip over something and your opponent be like, oh, well, did you see the results from the last regionals? What are you doing? Like everything is on the table right now. And I use that to your advantage because that's not all the time. We get this pretty much once a year when rotation happens. So you want to try out some weird, wacky variant running this or that, go for it. Like at the end of the day, make sure you can draw cards. Make sure you're intentional with the things that you're adding in there and have enough supporters and blah, blah, blah. But really like throw some stuff at the wall, man. Like, let's see that Sylveon EX deck and let's whip that thing out, man. Like whatever you're thinking, I think you can do it. And you could even approach Atlanta as long as you've practiced, as long as you feel like you have grinded on that deck and you know the ins and outs, you know your matchups, run it. Because after this one, there starts to be a baseline, and I think it gets less and less acceptable to run weird off-the-wall stuff. Sometimes your opponent gets mad. If they're like, what are you running that for? Like, because it just counters them crazy, and they get pissed. Atlanta, I don't think you'll have any of that. I think everyone's going to have some cool, weird ideas, and so go weird. Lean into weird, wacky, rogue decks.
Absolutely. And I think something that should qualify this is, you would agree with this, is like, what are your goals right now? So if you're trying to get points, my focus right now is I'm looking at EUIC. I'm looking at what's best. I'm trying to figure out how to make that next tweak and run into my next tournament and get some points. If your season is over, even right now, and you know that, and you're trying to get better, like me, I'm lean more to what Cory's saying. I'm looking towards the next set. I'm looking at Japanese tournaments, and I'm finding what I want to run. I'm experimenting, and then I'm trying to use my other principles of consistency and grit and trying to get better at that next thing. There's no shame in being a one-shot and trying something new. There's no shame in that whatsoever. Some of the best players we've ever seen have reputations with certain decks because, Henry Chow, you think Gardevoir, when you hear that name, when I hear Aiden Koos, I think Lost Box, and that's okay. So I think this is a great opportunity. It feels weird. Even from like a card investment point, it's like, I really don't want to buy any, yellow rimmed cards right now because they're about to be collector's items and no longer viable. But if you see something, cards are not that expensive right now. Like, I'd say go for it. Like, get you a little something, run it at League, have fun with it. Because there is nothing to lose right now. Nothing. Nothing to lose. I understand we've had a run of collector's set. I think this next set that gets released for Atlanta is going to be a player set. And it has to be coming in at a rotation. So it is going to be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I'd say to answer your question, you want points? Say it with me. Milotic Farafarig. Say it with me. Milotic Farafarig.
Another win for Milotic!
Another win for Milotic!
I'm sorry if you were born after 1990, you may not get that reference.
Netflix got all the old Seinfeld episodes.
All the old Seinfeld.
But Jared, if you want to swing for the fence, the Japanese tournament was a prime example for Alligator, baby. Like that deck may have seemed weird at the beginning of the tournament. It wasn't weird at the end,
nope.
And I'll say the other deck that I told you about that was happening that was all over the place, but it obviously didn't. It didn't make top 16. Was the not Snorlax, the Slowpoke Slowbro deck.
Oh, you did tell me about that. Yeah,
rip the top card off and you do whatever attack it is, and they were putting the Kyurem there. And I mean, that deck was everywhere. I mean, people were just running that ad nauseum. So, run whatever. I have a beef though, real quick. I believe it's the Robin Schultz's family, and I could have this wrong, that runs the Limitless page. I could be wrong, but I want to say they're the ones that own this page and update it and things like that. Give me 2 seconds just to confirm this. I don't want to throw shade at this poor family. It does. Robin Schultz, he's the developer, website developer for the Limitless page. Okay. And then Lydia Schultz is the stream managing sponsor. and the player team, Philip Schultz. So the Schultz family is all over this. I'm not, he's won a world's title. Am I saying he had other information? I'm not saying that. What I am saying is, what are we doing? Why can we only look at the top 16 results from Fukuoka? Like, why? We should be able to get 300. I want to see all of the decks from Japan. Why is this? What is this just 16? Can we
maybe they're limited in their information across. I don't know. I don't think it's because they don't, or they're sitting on it. I think if they had it, they'd post it.
You don't think so?
I don't think they're sitting on it.
I mean, that would be nice information to know what like the top 300 deck from a 5,000 person tournament. I'd love to know more statistics.
This is getting in the range of like conspiracy theories. Like this is that type of talk coming from you. I don't see any reason to hold on to it. I don't know that it makes that big of a difference. Like, and Robin isn't. Show me the Schultz record this season. Like, where's the proof?
All right. Touche.
Unless they're like the suppliers and like towards like.
That's true.
I need that Japanese data.
Hey.
Then we have a different conversation.
Now we have a story cooking. Oh, and interesting. Oh, Ryuki is sponsored by the Schultz family. What?
I will happily make this documentary with you. Like,
dude, what are we doing?
When we find out that there is just insider information and just like scandal at the highest level of Pokemon. Oh my goodness. I'm trying to figure out what we would call it. What would we I think we just call it Gotta Catch 'Em All.
Well, yeah,
like,
caught 'em all.
Caught 'em all.
We'll find out that Michael Long was like onto it, but one of the judges threw a Greninja break into his lap.
He was gonna blow it up. He was gonna be the whistleblower.
And then the judge, check his lap. And Michael's like, what are you talking about? And then the break was in his lap. Escort him out. Kill his credibility.
Oh my gosh, that's too funny. Oh, that would be so amazing.
Yeah, and then for the next 14 years, they've been dominating under the cover. But Long had it. He knew.
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
Anyway, all right. Sorry, Schultz family. We probably know that's not true. Hey, before we go, I forgot something.
Oh,
our ticker. Stray Collections. Shout out. Appreciate everything. Sponsor. Check out the YouTube channel, the website. He may have, and I don't want people to go kidnap him, but he might have prismatic evolution cards.
Ooh.
Which right now that's a hot ticket.
That is a hot ticket item, man. Oof.
So check it out, baby. Check it out.
That's what's up, man. That is the stuff right now. What is the next set called?
I have no idea.
I have no idea right now.
No, just look at next set of Pokemon TCG. Journey Together?
Oh.
Is that what it is?
Maybe.
Seems like Journey Together? Is that true?
I don't know. I feel like I want to get on the name. Then how we talked long ago, I want to help make the game. I just want to name the sets. Like that's all. Call me up every 3 months. Oh, Jared, we need a new set. I got you. I'm ready.
You had a good one the other day.
It was something we were riffing off of, and I was like, "Oh, that'd be good."
Yeah, it started with an. I thought it started with an H, but yeah, I don't remember what it was, but it was good. It was good. But all right, Bubba. I think that's it. I think we're at the end. All right, for Cory, for Jared. Wait, hold on. Oh, never mind. We don't have a regionals this weekend. Sorry.
We gotta make predictions. We're good.
I panicked. Good. We'll wait till next weekend. For everybody, we will catch you later.
You can find us at roguemedianetwork.com. Teach Me Pokemon Podcast. Come and dive with us.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production.